Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and I was always told how to voice the radio. So today, we are looking at one of the final cards. In fact, other than the pointless cards we'll get to tomorrow, the final card from Explosive Walker, the last card that gets its own video. It's Heatran. And I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, this is one that has a little bit of potential. Certainly we like fire Pokemon, and certainly we like basic Pokemon, so this could add up quite nicely. What we've got here is a 130 HP basic Pokemon, which incidentally is exactly what we're looking for, because there's too many Pokemon out there that do a natural 120 damage. Having 130 HP is way better. We got a retreat cost of 4, which opens up buff padding to give ourselves an extra 50 HP, which is really rather nice, as well as letting us search it out with stuff like Pokemaniac, making it a basic you could put into a Steelix deck, etc. We've got a weakness to water, which honestly isn't a big deal. I keep getting excited about Frostmoth. I keep trying to get you guys excited about Frostmoth. But the competitive community as a whole is not getting excited about Frostmoth. And you're a fire Pokemon, which is weakness on Zacian V, the best Pokemon in the game right now, as well as having Welder to attach 2 energy and draw 3 cards, Heat Factory Prism Star to discard a fire energy from your hand and draw extra cards. We've got that Heat Fire energy we looked at the other day, which means you get an extra 20 HP for everyone that's attached. And you've got a whole bunch of stuff like Fire Crystal, which will get your fire energy to you. And frankly, it is a great time to be a fire Pokemon. And this is a pretty good fire Pokemon. Starting off, 2 energy, 30 damage plus burn. I can get on board with this. I should mention our translations come from the lovely Antoine Boulet and the lovely Joe over at Cerebi.net. 30 damage plus burn is actually really quite good. Now, if you're hitting weakness against smaller Pokemon, I mean, let's say there's a Grookey in front of you, right? Bye, Grookey. Grookey's going down. Because even though Grookey doesn't actually have 60 HP, okay, to be fair, there's 3 Grookey and 2 of them do. But even though one of them doesn't, and that's the one that's going to see play, remember that burn does 20 damage, and then you flip to see if you're still burned. Heads you're not, tails you are. Well, the good news here is that even though you'll do 30, double to 60, they'll survive. Oh, wait, no, burn kicks in and they're gone. In your face, Grookey. In your face. But what this is an early game Pokemon. Simple as that. Now, some of you at this stage are probably thinking, Wassy, come on. Fire has an early game Pokemon. It's Volcanion. And nothing against Volcanion, right? Volcanion, the one from Unbroken Bonds, is a really good early game Pokemon, and not for nothing will survive the rotation. Okay, no arguments here. Here's the thing. If you go second, Volcanion is awesome. 1 fire energy, search your deck for 3 fire energy, and attach them to your Pokemon in any way that you like. But if you go first, you attach 1 energy to Volcanion to accelerate 1 energy. So unless you get to use this multiple times, you're not actually having any more energy, which is generally a bad thing. And then the attack, is 2 energy, 110, which sounds really good, and in theory is really good. But the problem is, you've got to have 2 other energy on the field. And that's not possible to do in a single turn. Heatran, your Welder, boom, 2 energy, done, 30 damage plus burn. Volcanion, Welder, 50 damage, but then you need the 2 extra energy. And don't get me wrong, 50 damage and 30 damage plus burn is the same. And to be fair, if you're hitting for weakness, it's 100 rather than 80, because you double the 50 rather than doubling the 30 and adding 20. The thing is, burn stays around, assuming they keep flipping tails, or you drop a Well of Volcano Park, which will keep the burn going. I'm not saying this is a replacement for Volcanion. What I am saying is, it is a nice alternative for the first attack. But the second attack is where Heatran gets a little bit dumb. Because the second attack on Heatran, 3 energy, 80 damage. No. This attack does 10 more damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon, yes. If you can somehow take 120 damage, you're hitting for 200 damage. 200 damage! That's a little bit nuts, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the reality is you're probably not going to be hitting 200, but also you're probably going to still be hitting more than 110, which means you're hitting more than Volcanion. Now, bear in mind here, my calculation I just gave you a minute ago was assuming you didn't have buff padding. If you've got buff padding, then you've got 180 maximum HP, which means you can take 170 without being KO'd, which means you're actually doing 250 damage. Which is also cuckoo bananas. It's ridiculous. It's great. And that's my point about Heatran here. What's going to happen in reality a lot of the time is your opponent isn't going to attack. You're going to put Heatran active and your opponent's going to go, ha ha ha, I'm not falling for that. So burn them. And they keep taking that burn damage turn after turn after turn. The other thing is, if they're deliberately not attacking, then that buys you time. If you need a little bit of time to get set up, to get enough energy on the field, whatever, whack Heatran active, and either your opponent opens himself up to a big raging flare, outrage, or your opponent doesn't, brilliant. Go for it. Because if your opponent doesn't open themselves up to Raging Flare, they're not attacking you. So you can just hit them for 80, or you can burn them, or you can buy yourself some time, and that's what's awesome here. Now, of course, what would be lovely is if we could get ourselves just a little bit of self-damage going on here. And there are options. Don't forget the Jinx from Unified Minds. Once during your turn, you may move one damage counter from one of your Pokemon to another of your Pokemon, which would help here. Honestly, I don't know if we can actually use this just to do an extra 10 damage with Heatran. I don't think it does enough, but nevertheless, it's an option. It's a real shame you're not a Psychic Pokemon, incidentally, because otherwise the Gengar from Sword and Shield would actually work really nicely here, because that lets you as often as you like move damage counters, but only from a Psychic Pokemon to a Psychic Pokemon, which, shall we say, is not good enough, unfortunately. It's not going to work, ladies and gentlemen. Would love to be able to use Gengar. Can't use Gengar. We do still have Bayonet GX, which lets you move a damage counter from one Pokemon to another, but also that has to be in the active and it's a GX. We don't have great options, unfortunately, when it comes to moving damage counters. Wish we did, but we don't. So, sorry. In Expanded, you could use this with, say, Team Magma's Secret Base, which is very cool. That's the one whereby when you bench a Pokemon with it out, you take 2 damage counters. But, nah. I mean, again, it work in Expanded, it's just not likely. As an alternative in Expanded, we've also got Frozen City, which will put 2 damage on when you attach an energy, but no. Unfortunately, you're kind of relying on your opponent to hit you here, and then when your opponent hits you, you hit them back a little bit harder. And maybe they hit you and open this up, or maybe they don't hit you, and that means you buy yourself a little bit of time. Either way, I really like this. As far as Outrage attacks go, this is a really nice Outrage attack. And you've got the decent attack, first of all. And of course, this second attack here is just Welder and energy. Use Welder, attach for turn, boom, free energy, and you're off. I like this Heatran. The fact that it's a fire Pokemon, so it fits nicely into fire decks, obviously helps quite a lot. And similarly, the fact that it is a basic Pokemon and the energy can be accelerated quite easily also helps quite a lot. So I'm giving it 3 Wassies. It seems like the kind of card where you should have a couple copies in your binder, because you never know when you're going to want to take it into a fire deck. And having a couple copies in your binder, because you never know when you're going to want to put it into a fire deck, that is, well, it doesn't have to be a fire deck to be fair, but that is the very definition of a free Wossie card. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Got a couple more Pokemon to look at tomorrow. The, less good ones from the set, shall we say. But we are very much near the end of our look at Explosive Walker. But we've had a look at Heatran, and I would very much like to know what you think about Heatran, so let me know in the comments section. Go nuts, be nice, and then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but are pretty gosh darn nice nonetheless. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.